Hey there everybody, what's going on? This is TwoHeadedFlounder. Welcome back to another post-rotation deck profile. Of course, today we're going to be going over a Gardy deck. Very pleased to be doing this one because I've been sitting on these Gardys for a while. I kind of got them a little too late. I decided to play Gardy when Gardy died off, thanks to Buzzwole. And yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good about being able to finally use them. I mean, I could have used them before, but the deck has definitely fallen from grace. It was a dominating force, and then Buzzwole became really good. Zoroark was also really good as well. But yeah, I think the main factor was Buzzwole being just a hard-hitting Pokemon, really destroying Stage 1 and Stage 2 decks due to the fact that it got easy knockouts on basics, and it sniped other basics on the bench. So if you didn't evolve immediately, then you were in some kind of trouble, for sure. So, with all of that being said, I'm very anxious to get into this, so let's go ahead and do so. So, this is, of course, a Gardevoir Zoroark deck. So, we're going to be maxing out our basics here. We're going to be playing 4 copies of Ralts. Not really a whole lot going on here, but Draining Kiss will heal 10 damage, and you do 10 damage, so that's something, I guess. I don't expect this to keep us alive, but it's whatever. Next up, we have a copy of Kirlia. Yes, just one copy. We are playing Rare Candy. We're going to, of course, try and skip the Kirlia line if possible, but if we need to do so, we will evolve manually. It's not that big of a deal. And, of course, we are playing 3 copies of Gardy. Gardy is a fantastic attacker. It is a great Pokemon overall, has a lot of HP, and it's just super solid. So 230 HP, it has a 2 retreat cost, which is a little hefty, I will admit, but it's very manageable at the very least. The ability Secret Spring will allow us to attach a fairy energy from our hand to one of our Pokemon during our turn, which is, of course, great for using Infinite Force, which does 30 damage for the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So, of course, with double colorless and fairy energy attached to this, we'll be already hitting for 90, and then any energy attached to our opponent is just obviously going to increase that, and that's always just a positive thing. The only problem is we have to have 4 energy attached to us, and Baby Buzzwole has to have 1 energy attached to it to get a knockout, so there is quite a bit of energy that will be required for dealing with something like that, but it's definitely very manageable with a great ability like Secret Spring. This card is going to either have to be a staple or or just a counter deck. I believe in the next format, everybody seems to be hyping up not Mega, but Rayquaza-gx, and I can understand why. It's very, very strong, and I think Gardy, due to the fact that it has a super effective coverage over it, is going to make it really good. Plus, I think because Buzzwole is losing strong energy, I think it's a lot more manageable to deal with, and I think the return of Gardy is pretty much set in stone. But we also have the Twilight GX attack. This is going to allow us to shuffle 10 cards from our discard pile back into our deck. So if we really need to, we can get a couple of Rare Candy back. We can go ahead and grab energy back, supporters that we may need. You name it, we got it. And it's just very, very useful for being able to not deck out or get some of those important resources back that we might need, like getting Guzmas for a win. So yes, this is, of course, a Zoroark deck as well. So we have our 4 copies of Zoroark because we want to obviously max out on the Zoroark. Again, the RAM one is very important. I guess is it the only one? I believe it's the only one in the format, but you know, 20 damage is okay. We are playing 4 copies of Zoroark GX, of course. Zoroark has the wonderful ability of trade, which is going to allow us to either draw into stuff that we want and or be able to discard cards that we really don't need in our deck anymore. But either way, it's going to allow us to draw 2 cards, and of course, the more we have in play, the more we're going to draw, and we're obviously going to try and keep afloat by using this ability. Due to the fact that we don't have too many great supporters anymore with the loss of N and Sycamore, trade is probably the next best thing for us. And then of course Radius Beating does a lot of damage for a double colorless energy attachment, and that's always just very, very useful. So primarily our main attacker, but Gardevoir is also just a phenomenal attacker regardless, so they both share the spotlight. Up next, we're playing 2 copies of Lele. So I would like to play a little bit more Lele, but we actually have a tech in this deck that is going to make Lele a bit of a hindrance. So Lele, of course, has the Wonder Tag ability, going to allow us to search our deck for a supporter card put into our hand. Great for grabbing important ones that we need for the turn, like a Guzma for a knockout or something along those lines. But yeah, it's just, you gotta play this card, and it's a great backup attacker with energy drive as well. So we're never going to be using Tapu Cure because we don't have any psychic energy. We don't have to worry about that. But finally, our techable guy. So we got 2 copies of Alolan Grimer. I'm using the Dark type one because it has a free attack and this double colorless attack, but also has 80 HP. Like this one a lot. Division, search your deck for Alolan Grimer, put it onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. It's just a way to thin out your deck a little bit, but also maybe if you know this Alolan Grimer is going to get knocked out and you want to guarantee that Alolan Muk evolution, this is a great way to do it. But Slippery Sludge for a double colorless will allow you to confuse your opponent's active Pokemon, which might be a good way to buy some time. And then lastly, we're playing 2 copies of Alolan Muk. So, what does this do? Well, it has the ability Power of Alchemy, which essentially shuts off all basic Pokemon's abilities in play, in your hand, and in your discard pile. So, your opponent is ideally not going to be able to use their Lele's anymore. But more importantly, we have the perfect counter to Hoopa. No longer will we be afraid of Hoopa. Gardevoir will destroy Hoopa. We're playing a 2-2 line because just in case our opponent wants to target them down. Also, it gives us more basics, and on top of it, if we really don't need the Muk in the matchup, we can just go right ahead and trade it away, and it's fine. It's just, it's there for a few things. I think also being able to shut off our opponent from using Lele, especially if they have a Lele heavy deck, like 3 or 4 copies in it, then they effectively have a few dead cards, but we'll also be able to just trade away. So even not be able to play our second Lele in the game might not be that big of a deal. So that's going to do it for Pokemon. On to our supporter lineup. We have 3 copies of Cynthia. Cynthia is, of course, a very, very strong supporter. It's our best supporter in the current format, the post-rotation format. So, yeah, we shuffle, draw 6. There's just no downside to this. It's really, really good. Next up, we are playing 2 copies of Lily. So Lily is just one of those cards that wasn't good, but all of a sudden, because we have a lack of good supporters, is good. So, on our first turn of the game, if we use Lily, we'll be able to draw until we have 8 cards in our hand. So, ideally, we want to play our hand down to 1 Lily for 8. But if not, then we can draw up into 6 later on in the game. It's just a good secondary supporter. If we don't have Cynthia, Lily will do the job, hopefully. And that's fine, especially because we have trade. So we can Lily up to 6 and then get to 7. We're playing 3 copies of Guzma. I don't know why I just grabbed a single copy. 3 copies of Guzma, a very important deck. We are playing a very offensive deck. This is a deck that does a whole lot of damage, and we want to get knockouts. So, of course, using Guzma is a great way to do that, but also we have a lot of retreat in this deck. Everything that is a GX or a stage 1 besides Kirlia in Lele. Alright, let me rephrase that. Everything in the deck besides Ralts, Kirlia, and Lele has a pretty hefty retreat cost. So being able to get those guys out of the active without having to remove energy or dedicate something to it is ideal. We have lost special charge, so in puzzles, so Zoroark really doesn't want to lose its double colorless energy, but if we have to, we will, but ideally maybe use Cosmo to get it out, or just obviously take down our opponent's Pokemon. Next up, we're playing 2 copies of Tate and Liza. I just really like this card. What can I say? Choose one. Either you have a Shauna effect, shuffle your hand and draw 5 cards, or you get to switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. It's just good. So again, we have a very hefty retreat cost on a lot of our guys, so this is maybe a great way to get Muk out of the active spot if we really need to. And of course, we're playing a few copies. So between this, we have 5, and we can have 7 with Palpad. And maybe even more if we use Gardevoir GX attack. So, in the last video, I didn't include Judge in any of my in my deck because I was playing a more aggressive build. I feel like I had a lot of other techable stuff in there that I needed for my deck. So I think Judge is better off in a deck that can really rely on disrupting your opponent other than just trying to do a lot of damage. Gardy has the ability to do a lot of damage because of its ability, while the other deck that we have went over was, you know, kind of reliable on energy. And I'm getting all mixed up here, but what I'm trying to say is I think Judge is a lot more manageable in this deck than it is in my other deck profile that I have uploaded. But this is overall a great card if you are playing Zoroark. If you're not, I would honestly probably play other supporters. Yes, being able to disrupt your opponent's hand is good, and that's why N was such a great card. But it's only to 4. I think Zoroark is going to be pretty rampant. Even if not, they'll draw 4, they'll get 5 on their turn. And then all of a sudden, if they have other stuff, if they have Oranguru, maybe they can play a couple cards, instruct again. It doesn't matter. I just feel like Judge isn't as good as people are going to make it out to be. However, in a deck like this, because we can take full advantage of our strong attackers and trade, I think Judge is a pretty good include. So our couple of supporters that are just one-offs here. We have a copy of Copycat. I can't speak. Shuffle your hand into your deck, then count the number of cards in your opponent's hand and draw that many cards. So if we aren't able to judge them out of a big hand of like 9 cards, why not go ahead and Copycat and get 9 cards? I think that's really useful, and I really like the card a lot. But I can't see myself playing more than 1 or 2 copies of in a deck, so we're just going with the 1 for now and kind of seeing how it works. Next up, we have a copy of Acerola. If we can just manage to avoid getting a big knockout on one of our Pokemon, that will give up 2 prizes, and or maybe our Muk is stuck in the active spot and we didn't have another one of our supporters to get it out, but it has a little bit of damage on it. Acerola it up, not really that big of a deal. And it's just overall a great card to have. And again, with Palpad and Gardevoir GX's attack, we're going to be able to reuse it a couple of times. And last but not least, we have Diantha. So, if one of your fairy Pokemon is knocked out during your opponent's last turn, put 2 cards from your discard pile into your hand. So, what is fantastic about this is we grab Rare Candy Gardy. We get Gardy gets knocked out. We have Ralts in the bench. We just get another Gardy right back into play. Also, maybe we want a double colorless back. Maybe our opponent has enhanced hammers a few times. Get it right back. Other than that, I don't know. It's just very situational. These are the ideal situations, getting cards that you probably think you're going to need back. But yeah, I think this is a pretty instant include in most fairy decks, obviously, for obvious reasons. And I like it a lot. I do. So, next up for items, we're playing 4 copies of Ultra Ball, because you gotta run these. They're just that good. Everybody plays them. They're in every deck, so play it. I know that doesn't sound too what do you call it? Peer pressure friendly. Everybody's doing it. You gotta play it, but you got it. You have to play that card. 3 copies of Rare Candy. We could up this to 4. I think that 3 should be fine. We're only playing 3 Gardevoir. We have trade to draw into it. And we have a copy of Kirlia. Again, Zoroark is an easier attacker to set up. You just have to evolve it and attach a double colorless, and it's good to go. Gardevoir requires Rare Candy, Fairy Energy, double colorless, maybe Choice Band, things like that. But Zoroark is usually just easier to set up and good to go. So we'll probably focus on Zoroark in the early game, maybe mid to late game is Gardevoir's game. So 3 copies of Rare Candy. We have a copy of Field Blower because we want to remove our opponent's tools or annoying stadiums. I'm not sure yet what people are going to be playing, but removing choice bands is always a positive thing. Next up, we have a copy of Rescue Stretcher. Yes, we can use Gardevoir GX's attack, or GX attack, but just being able to ensure that we get Pokemon back into play is very, very important. A single copy of Palpad. Yay! We were talking about this the whole supporter time. But yeah, just great. Shuffle 2 supporters from your discard pile back into your deck. Always just going to be good. And lastly, for our items, we have 3 copies of Choice Band, our tool of choice. Just do maximum damage output. We really can't put too many other tools in the deck. We don't have Floatstone, so that's kind of a bummer. That's why we're relying on this heavy supporter line, but this will do the job. This will let you hit those extra numbers and really apply the pressure to your opponent. And lastly, we have our energy. So we are playing 6, yes, count them, 6 copies of Fairy Energy because it's important to the deck. But yeah, we could play more honestly, but again, with Gardevoir GX's GX attack, this should be fine. And if not, then we have double colorless for Zoroark. So 6 Fairy Energy should be just about enough. And then, of course, 4 copies of double colorless because it allows all of our Pokemon to attack and do more damage. So, yes. With that being said, that is my deck profile for the post-rotation of Gardy Zoroark. This is what I happen to think is going to be a good deck, playable deck. I really like the idea of using Alolan Muk. I think it could be good. I think there is quite a bit of potential there. But with all that other stuff being said, this is my list. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, consider leaving a like, comment, or subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with my future content. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.